Right. So we are live here, and it's been a pleasure hosting Richard Yan, who is a co-founder of Vite. And Richard is a seasoned Wall Street professional. And Richard, before I proceed further, my question to you is very simple. When was the first time when you heard these words Bitcoin, Ethereum, crypto, and blockchain?
Oh man, that was a long time ago. So I would say maybe 2011. Ever since Bitcoin came out, I've heard about it.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. Well, nice knowing that. And would you like to introduce yourself a bit? Like, how did you start it up?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. We started Vite in 2018, and so let's see. By the way, Archit, I'm hearing a little bit of echo. I keep hearing my voice coming back to me. Not sure if it's because you need to wear headphones or something. And this is why I'm hesitating while talking.
Okay. Is it fine now?
No, I keep hearing my own voice coming back to me. Not sure why that's the case. It wasn't like this earlier. Is it
Okay.
because it's coming out of your headset or something? Coming out of your
Well, not really, though. Not really, though.
your headset. Okay. Trying to think what's the best thing to do here. Yeah, maybe when you're not talking, just mute yourself. Maybe that will help.
Sorry, I didn't hear you up.
Can you mute yourself? Like, let's say you mute yourself
sure.
right now. See what happens. Okay.
Is it fine now?
No, I still hear it from my side, I think. So I'm not sure why. It's okay. I'll just overcome it, right?
Right. So you were just introducing yourselves and how you started up. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So I started this, let's see. So we started in May of 2018. I have been working on Wall Street up until that point. I was at Goldman Sachs for 8 years. I was at another hedge fund called Two Sigma for another year, 2 years at the time. And so a family friend introduced me to my co-founders. The problem that we're trying to address is very imperative. So at the time, Bitcoin has been around for half a decade. Ethereum has been around for 3 or 4 years or so. And the problem that they're addressing is very real, right? So I fell down the rabbit hole, Bitcoin being the digital gold and Ethereum being digital oil. Ultimately, we wanted to address any kind of shortfall in scalability, namely for these types of digital assets. And that's why we started Vite. And Vite stands for fast. It's a French for fast. And so we started Vite because we ultimately wanted to solve the scalability problem. Vite is a layer 1 protocol. We've gone through multiple phases, and I'm happy to go into more details. Archit, you muted yourself, so you gotta turn it on back on.
So at your website, then kind of when I was going through it, I mean, I just read about that bridging, it's bridging every blockchain in a multi-chain future. Now, can you just elaborate on this?
Yes, absolutely. So to answer that question, maybe I should go back a little bit. We've gone through 3 phases. Number 1 is that we are a layer 1 protocol trying to solve the scalability problem. We're 0 fees, and we're 0 fees for many reasons. One of them is because we have a staking-based mechanism. So instead of paying gas to execute a smart contract or to send a simple transaction, we ask our users to stake Vite instead. So you don't lose anything in the process. In fact, you don't even have to stake Vite in order to send a transaction. It's completely free up to a certain point. It's a freemium model. You get a small amount of transaction per second, amount of quota. And once you exceed that quota, you need to stake in order to receive a higher amount of throughput, right? So imagine if you're doing higher frequency transactions on a decentralized exchange, that's what you need to do. So anyway, so that's phase 1, which is public blockchain. And then there's phase 2, which is decentralized exchange. Right? So we wanted to prove that the public blockchain works. So we started with a toy example, which evolved into a real world use case. It's an order book based DEX, right? And you see many DEXs out there, AMMs, Uniswap, SushiSwap. And the way these things work is that the fact that they are only market order based DEXs mean that if you were to do an order book exchange, that would put up much stronger stress on the chain. Okay. And the fact that we're able to do an order book decentralized exchange on our chain actually basically shows that we're able to stress test the chain every single day. And so the DEX was rolled out. We were able to achieve a reasonably high amount of transaction volume. And that's when we realized that there's still something to be desired, which is we can achieve trustless transfer of assets native to Vite, but how can we increase the scope to assets that are outside of the Vite chain, right? If you want to do trustless transfer between, say, Bitcoin and Ethereum, what's the way to accomplish that? And so that's when we decided we wanted to do bridging of assets. And so that's why we launched our phase 3 of the project, bridging every chain out there. That's the major infrastructural development that we are doing on the core team side. And we released a white paper. We are expecting to be releasing a basic version of the Vite bridge sometime this year, according to our roadmap. And yeah, but so that's more on the infrastructural side. Right now we're radically trying to decentralize the way we're running this project, and I can get into more of what that means later.
Right. To my curiosity, I mean, could you just explain the project from the point of view of what are the if you can highlight the use cases of it, what are the kind of use cases of Vite?
Oh, yes. So Vite is layer 1. So you can basically think of it as few different ways. You can think of it as an operating system for the new kind of internet, a Web3 operating system, right? So the way Web 2 works is that you essentially don't, as a user on the web, you don't have control over your own data. You don't have a way of verifying the result of the programs that you're running because of the server client model. And you don't have a native currency on the internet that you can utilize to make transactions. And these things are all solved by Web3, right? The biggest issue with Web3 technology right now is the scalability, the fact that transactions do not come through fast enough, or not enough transactions get processed at any given in a unit of time. And that's what we're trying to solve, right? So I think the major takeaway there is essentially Vite stands for fast, and we're trying to solve the scalability problem for Web3. You can basically think of us as a more efficient operating system for Web3. But earlier I was talking about radically decentralizing our project. So aside from upgrading our infrastructure through Vite Bridge, and we were also trying to change up our programming language. We have something called Solidity++. It's an improvement upon Solidity. It makes the programming language more asynchronous. So that means it's a message-driven language that will essentially allow you to have programs that execute faster, so to speak. And aside from these infrastructural changes, the way we're decentralizing the project is we are launching many different DAOs. We have a project called the SBP DAO. So without going into too much detail, the main understanding there is we are trying to attract as many software developers as possible into our platform, essentially bringing in lots of stakeholders that can build, and each one of their projects can take the form of a investor DAO, a developer DAO, or a culture DAO, right? So the way these DAOs or decentralized autonomous organizations work is that they're self-governing bodies of Vite enthusiasts that have skin in the game one way or another, financially or through their development efforts. And they try to expand the ecosystem by building applications on top and evangelizing their applications while evangelizing the Vite protocol. So So radically decentralization is a name of the game. It's a major theme for us right now.
Right. Well, very well explained, though, in fact. So now I was just curious of asking this, how do you see this future where many blockchains will, kind of grow to serve these different needs, down the line?
I think at this point, it's becoming increasingly clear that it won't be a winner take all or winner take most world in the war of blockchains. So for example, if you look at some of the major chains, Solana, BSC, and some of the newcomers like Avalanche, and even some of the older chains that have yet to really battle test their smart contract platform like Cardano, it's very clear that every single chain will have some kind of value, very similar value proposition. And it really comes down to, I would say, execution in terms of attracting interesting projects. And so the bottom line is that I think when we are seeing the convergence into a world where many different blockchains will offer value to users, and all of them will become very competitive, very compelling in terms of implementing new things that people want, right? NFT being a prime example, which is a great on-ramp, by the way, for non-crypto people into this world. We just realized that building the pick and shovel strategy is a good idea. Namely, if you see a lot of people going into blockchain, what is the best way to bridge the different assets? Bridge assets across different chains. And that's essentially when Vite Bridge comes in handy. The last time I checked, there's also a handful of projects trying to build a bridge. Our main value proposition there is we're trying to do something that's universal and completely trustless. So our white paper actually lays out the way we are a little bit different from everyone else. The main thing is that it truly takes advantage of the existing infrastructure within the Vite chain. And it is built on top of the basic idea that transfers on Vite are essentially free. And so we're very excited to be contributing to this world that's going to be multi-chain.
Well, while I was reading about Vite, I think the Vite bridge can also be used for instant cross-chain transfer and the stable cross-chain exchange also, and also as a cryptocurrency custody, right? So would you like to expand on these three things? Like, let's start with the instant cross-chain transfer.
Yes, so that's basically the Vite bridge idea that I talked about. Cross-chain transfer, essentially, we have some mechanism of recognizing what's happening in a foreign chain, and then having that information being passed back to our host chain, creating so say someone tries to deposit from a certain chain, let's say BSC, into Vite, then the asset on BSC essentially needs to be locked up in a BSC wallet, and subsequently a wrapped asset on Vite will need to be issued. So that process will be undertaken by something called a relay. And so if we need to do it the other way around, say someone wants to deposit into BSC from or move an asset that's already on Vite into essentially a wrapped asset on BSC, the reverse process happens. And that is basically taken care of by the Vite Bridge protocol.
Right. And also you expanded on the DAOs, which is the decentralized autonomous organizations, right? Which is bound to have a quite exciting future. So could you elaborate on DAOs? How do you see it in the next 10 years? How do they influence this whole world of blockchains and crypto?
Right. So let me quickly describe what exactly DAOs do and then talk about my vision for them. So decentralized autonomous organizations, that's what they stand for. It's essentially a very easy way for people around the world to coordinate their actions. So one good example of a DAO is, I'll take an example from our side. We have a DAO called the Vino DAO. So Nano, your viewers might be familiar, is a major project. They are based on the block lattice DAG. And our project is actually very heavily inspired by Nano. When we got started, we essentially put smart contract on Nano. That's one way to think about it. And so a group of Vite and Nano enthusiasts wanted to make it possible to trade the Nano on Vitex, which is our decentralized exchange. So we gave them some seed funding through something called the Snapshot Block Producer, which is essentially our super node, right? Block rewards get sent to that SBP, Snapshot Block Producer, and that becomes the support funding for Vino to start their DAO. So Vino started their DAO. The DAO essentially receives votes from people that support, from Vino supporters. Vino, it's a combination of Vite and Nano, so Vino. And then the voters will eventually have governance over how that gateway will run. I believe at some point, maybe they will allow obviously this is up to how that DAO will be run, right? But one example of how that DAO can provide governance abilities to the users is they can allow the users to dictate what new coins that are forks of Nano to be issued on their gateway that's now connected to our decentralized exchange, and maybe ways that community members can receive rewards, how much to receive, what frequency to receive, what forms of rewards to receive. So essentially think of the DAO as a radically transparent and decentralized way for people to participate in governance, right? And the other thing about DAO is that people can submit proposals, and once a proposal gets submitted, the entire community can vote on it, and funding will be allocated to it, and development will take place. My vision for DAO in general is that I think the internet is meant to be an easy way for people, for a global coordination. It just took quite a while for us to get here because there was no native currency of the internet. And I think obviously right now, the market is quite heated, right? There's a lot of optimism in the air, right? Some justified, some not. But whenever something like this happens, the excitement actually drives change, right? If you think about the end of 90s when lots of .com stocks were high flying, right? Any company that decided to put .com in their name instantly got a valuation boost. That's when talented people went into tech and started making changes. And that's when a lot of capital poured into this space to support this kind of innovation, right? So I think that there will be a lot more DAOs, and there will be truly interesting innovation coming out of this space.
And I would also like you to tell us the vision for Vite Labs, for the future.
Sure. So I mentioned the three phases of evolution, right? So we were a public chain, layer one protocol, scalability first. And then we got into, our main differentiation was zero fees, instant settlement. Our second phase is decentralized exchange, essentially proving out the value proposition of the chain, so far succeeding. And phase number three is Vite Bridge, allowing trustless and universal inter-protocol transfer of assets to make the DEX even more usable. And I think that we're just going to travel down this trajectory. I think Vite Bridge is a very, very important component of what we're trying to do. The next thing to do is radical decentralization, which is what I mentioned about having many different DAOs launch. And so some of the exciting things that we're seeing in the community that's emerging is, number one, is that we are getting an NFT platform. So by the way, a hackathon is going on right now. We have one open task and 4 main bounties, and one of them is actually for NFT. So we are looking for community developers to make an NFT stack. We issued some guidance on our Medium as far as how we think a simple NFT stack can be built. And we're glad to see multiple community developers come forward to make this happen. In fact, we're seeing an inflow of developer interest of late. We have a developer Discord, and the vibe in there is very positive and very active. So I think it's for any kind of ecosystem to thrive, right? Think about the success of Ethereum, Solana, and like I said earlier, like Avalanche, or maybe say Algorand or Polkadot. It's all about attracting people to build on it, right? I mean, if you're positioned as a OS, operating system for Web3, it doesn't make sense if no one's trying to build the Word on it, the Excel on it, the PowerPoint on it, the games on it, right? The browser on it. And that's what we're seeing right now with lots of people coming in to do these things. So that's what I'm most excited about.
Right. You talked about the NFT right now. How do you see, because the whole world is seeming to be excited about the NFT. What's your take on that?
So I used to be extremely skeptical. And if you were to go back to my Twitter feeds, you could see that I used to make jokes about them. I still do joke about them all the time. I actually have a crypto comedy show where I make fun of NFT routinely. Maybe you should post that link to your viewers. I think it'd be a great way to learn about crypto and learn about Vite, in fact, through looking at my crypto comedy, 5 minutes a week, and John Oliver style. So, well, NFTs are essentially a great way to get people to learn about crypto. It's a great on-ramp for people outside the space. It's a very easy way to see what you're getting into, right? It's visual, and in the case of MP3, it's very tangible. So the way I see it is that NFT is basically it's essentially a new way of establishing ownership online, right? So the new generation of people, how do you provide them, how do you give them possession of things, right? So obviously in lots of big parts of the world, people still worry about material things, very basic things, right? Food, water, safety. But as the world becomes more and more abundant, the needs of different generations will change, right? So how do you own this this piece of art for Dogecoin, right? How do you establish a relationship with an artist through digital signature, right? So those are the kinds of problems that NFT solves. So these days you're seeing lots of these profile pictures, right, as NFTs, but we're also increasingly seeing rare and good art being provided. So generative art, artists dropping exclusive albums. We're seeing performance arts. There was this lady that has diamond, and she decided to crush it and transfer the value to an NFT. So maybe someone will purchase that and propose to his girlfriend with the NFT someday. So I think that this is a new norm. It is still experimental, but lots of things that human beings engage in are just norms that other cultures or say an extraterrestrial would not be able to understand, right, logically. So it's entirely possible this evolves into something mainstream. And so we're all for it. And the thing is that we are a zero fee instant settlement platform. So, I mean, it just totally makes sense to be minting NFTs on top of this and then transferring them to people with no fees, right? And I think that there are some platforms that are trying to do this, but unfortunately, because the underlying chains do not have instant settlement and zero fee features, they have to do this off chain, which isn't ideal. So for us, I think our platform is completely ripe for something like this. And we want to basically get the NFT full stack on top ASAP.
Right. So last question, do you want to talk about more recent developments in the Vite? And also where all folks can search for information about Vite?
Oh yeah, well, first of all, we are traded on WazirX. So it's a big step for us. We think that India is going to be a huge player in the crypto space. And so we're very glad to be part of that. And so in order to find information on Vite, we have the best place to start may be our Twitter. So that's twitter.com/Vite Labs, VITE-LABS. You can probably put that in your show notes. And so we have a You should also follow our CEO's Twitter. So twitter.com/Charles_Liu, Liu. And actually, sorry. So his name is Charles Liu, but the Twitter account is Trimming Liu. So CHUNMING_LIU. We can put that in your show notes as well. There are multiple threads that try to explain in very plain language as to what we're about. And you should, if you're a developer, definitely join our hackathon. You can go to Gitcoin, GITCOIN.co, and search for us, and you'll see multiple bounties going on there. And in terms of recent development, as I mentioned earlier, radical decentralization, NFT marketplace, Vite Bridge to help form trustless bridges between all different chains, and just in general, a flurry of community software developers bringing new things. We have a new meme coin on our chain now called the Vitamin Coin. We have new AMMs coming online, automated market makers, to enhance our offering in terms of decentralized trading. And there will be a lot more new interesting things happening. So make sure you follow all those social media channels. And thank you very much for hosting me.
Well, pleasure indeed, Richard. It's been an honor hosting you. And also, I think it was great educating the people of India and worldwide across about the wheat. And it was really nice hosting you. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Archit. No problem. Okay, bye-bye.